Imagine living in a town where the ground beneath your feet has been burning for more than 60 years. Not a campfire, not a building, an underground fire spreading through abandoned coal mines beneath an entire community. This is Centralia, Pennsylvania. Today, Centralia is almost empty. But decades ago, it was a busy American mining town where more than 1,000 people lived, worked, raised families, and built their lives. Coal was the heart of Centralia. Mining had shaped the town for generations, and beneath the streets was a network of old mine workings. Then, in May 1962, everything changed. A fire was intentionally started to burn, trash in an abandoned strip mine, being used as a dump. But the fire did not stay where it was supposed to. It reached nearby coal-bearing material, and then found its way into the underground mine workings. At first, the town probably looked almost normal. People continued with their daily lives. But beneath them, something extraordinary was happening. The fire was moving underground, and unlike an ordinary fire, this one was almost impossible to see and incredibly difficult to extinguish. For years, state and federal authorities tried to control it. Between 1962 and 1978, approximately $3.3 million were spent on efforts to contain the fire, but the results were limited. Then the consequences became impossible to ignore. Dangerous gases became a concern. The ground became unstable, and in 1983, Centralia's Route 61 suffered severe damage from ground subsidence caused by the fire. Suddenly, this was no longer just an underground problem. It was threatening the town above it. A government study estimated that completely extinguishing the fire could cost approximately $663 million. And that raised a terrifying question. What happens when the place you call home becomes too dangerous to live in? The answer would change Centralia forever. Families would begin leaving. Homes would be purchased and demolished. Businesses would disappear. And in ordinary Pennsylvania, town would slowly become one of America's most unusual near-ghost towns. But Centralia's story was far from over. Because while people were leaving the surface, the fire beneath them was still burning. And more than 6 decades later, according to Pennsylvania's Department of Environmental Protection, it is still burning underground. But as the fire continued, the people of Centralia faced a decision no family ever wants to make: stay or leave home forever. By the early 1980s, the danger beneath Centralia was becoming impossible to ignore. The underground fire was producing dangerous gases, while unstable ground created the possibility of sudden collapse. Then, in 1981, a 12-year-old boy named Todd Domboski fell into a hole that suddenly opened in his grandmother's backyard. He survived, but the incident shocked the community. The danger wasn't thousands of feet away anymore. It could reach the surface without warning. For Centralia's residents, the question was no longer simply, can they stop the fire? It became, is it still safe to live here? In 1984, Congress approved funding for the voluntary relocation of homes and businesses affected by the fire. Over the following years, families began leaving, one house at a time, one street at a time. Between 1985 and 1991, Pennsylvania records show that 545 residences and businesses were acquired, and residents were relocated. Homes that once echoed with children's voices became empty. Some were eventually demolished. Where houses had once stood, grass and trees slowly took their place. But not everyone wanted to leave. For some residents, Centralia wasn't simply a dangerous town. It was home. Their families had lived there for generations. Their memories were there. Their lives were there. Some residents fought to remain. The dispute eventually reached the courts, while the fire continued burning beneath them. Then another symbol of Centralia's decline appeared. Route 61, an important road through the area, suffered severe damage from ground subsidence and was eventually closed indefinitely. The town was becoming quieter. The population was shrinking. Businesses disappeared. Houses disappeared. But beneath the ground, the fire continued. Centralia had once been a community of more than 1,000 people. Now, only a tiny number of residents remained. And while the town above was slowly disappearing, the fire below was doing the opposite. It was still alive, still moving through the abandoned mine workings, still transforming the ground beneath Centralia. But the strangest chapter of this story was still waiting, because decades after the fire began, Centralia would become almost empty, while the underground fire continued burning. And the question remained, what does Centralia look like today? And how long can a fire beneath an American town continue? The answer would make Centralia one of the most haunting places in Pennsylvania. Today, Centralia looks nothing like the busy mining town it once was. Many of the homes are gone. The businesses are gone. Large parts of the old neighborhood have been reclaimed by grass, trees, and silence. But beneath that quiet landscape, something is still happening. The underground coal fire continues to burn. Pennsylvania officials warn that the area can contain dangerous gases and unstable ground, making some locations unsafe to enter. There is no dramatic wall of flames covering the town. Instead, the danger is mostly hidden. That may be what makes Centralia so unsettling. You can stand in a quiet area surrounded by trees and see almost nothing unusual. But beneath your feet, the old mine workings remain, and somewhere inside them, the fire continues moving through the coal. The fire began in May 1962. More than 60 years have passed since then. Generations have grown up. Families have moved away. Buildings have disappeared. But the fire has remained. Centralia is a reminder that some disasters don't happen all at once. They happen slowly. A small fire becomes a massive underground problem. A dangerous road becomes a closed road. A home becomes an abandoned property. A family leaves. Then another. And eventually, an entire community can change. What happened to Centralia was not simply the story of a fire. It was the story of people being forced to choose between the place they loved and the danger beneath it. For the residents who left, Centralia became a memory. For the few who remained, it became home surrounded by an extraordinary hazard. And for everyone else, the town became a warning. A warning about what can happen when fire enters a world hidden beneath the surface. Today, Centralia remains one of America's most unusual abandoned communities. There are no crowds filling its old streets. No busy downtown. No thriving mining industry. Just quiet roads, empty spaces, trees, and a fire that refuses to disappear. Perhaps one day, the underground coal will finally run out. Perhaps the fire will eventually go dark. But until then, Centralia remains a place where the past is still burning beneath the present. So the next time you drive through a quiet American town, remember this story. Because sometimes what you see above the ground tells you almost nothing about what is happening below it. In Centralia, the town disappeared slowly, but the fire never did. It began with something ordinary, a fire meant to burn garbage, and it became something that changed an entire community forever. More than 6 decades later, the ground beneath Centralia still holds the evidence. The streets may be quiet, the houses may be gone, the people may have moved on, but deep beneath the earth, the fire is still alive. And that is the haunting legacy of Centralia, Pennsylvania.